Andrew Gomison, and each and every week it is my privilege to be your host for a brand new episode of the Speaking for Him podcast, and I'm super excited about what I have to share with you today, which will be my review of the brand new film starring Nate Bargatze called The Breadwinner. Now, this is an interesting film from a variety of angles, but first of all, it is extremely gratifying to me that Nate Bargatze decided to take his clean, family-friendly humor and put it into a full-length motion picture. In an era where we see so many horror films and so many remakes and so many Marvel movies, it's just really nice to know that there is someone out there who wants to make a clean, fun family comedy. And I have to say, I really enjoyed this movie. And I think one of the things that jumped out to me the most is that I can't even think of any curse words that were in the script. Now, how often can you say that about a film that is not expressly Christian? One interesting thing about Nate is that he is a believer, but his goal has always been to do clean comedy, not necessarily Christian comedy. He says that a Christian can be an example by proving that you can do funny, clean comedy that everyone can enjoy. And when he has an opportunity to talk about his faith, it opens doors. So I think he was trying to accomplish the same thing with the movie The Breadwinner, and I think he did an admirable job doing it. And as I said, I am really excited to be able to share this review with you. I hope that you will find benefit in it, and if you do, that you will share it with your family and friends, and that importantly, you will go to theaters and watch this movie and support Nate and let him and many others know that these are the type of movies that we as families want to see. I think it would be very beneficial to so many people to see this film and to realize that you can have a great night out at the movies with your family with zero objectionable content. And so before we jump into my overall review of this movie, though, please let me share with you our quote of the day. And our quote of the day comes from Nate Bargatze in the film, and I really respected this quote because I think that it is something that a lot of people think about. And he says about his wife, "She makes it look so easy. It's the hardest I've ever worked in my life." And I know as we jump into this review that some people are going to say that it's rather tropey to have a movie about a guy who doesn't understand anything about the way the household works and think that it portrayed him as more dumb than it should have. And I think in some points I would agree with you on that. I think that most men, especially those who have been raising children for a while, are definitely somewhat competent about caring for their household, both the needs within the house and the needs of the people that are in the house. So I think there's a case to be made there. But I also think there's something very poignant about a man realizing the true value of the role that his wife plays in his family. And if you understand Nate Bargatze's comedy, you understand exactly where this trope is coming from, because he often talks about how his wife runs the household and he doesn't worry about aspects of his household because he trusts her to do it. And yes, there is a certain level of weaponized incompetence, and I will talk a little bit more about that as we go through this review. But again, I definitely thought it was more about him simply realizing that his wife was even more of a rock star than he already thought she was. Because one thing that really comes out of this movie that I deeply appreciate is this is a story about two people in Nate Wilcox and his wife Katie, played by Nate Bargatze and Mandy Moore, who truly support one another, truly believe in one another, and truly want the best for one another. And that's refreshing to see in a film, because even though there's a certain level of dumb dad trope, it's never in such a way as for Katie to believe that he's not capable of doing the right thing. It's more in the sense that he struggles with what to do and he's afraid to ask for help because he doesn't want to admit that he doesn't know something. And I think we've all struggled in a certain respect in that regard. So now let's get into the meat of our discussion about The Breadwinner, starring Nate Bargatze. As we start out the review of this film, I just want to talk about the two leads for a moment. Nate Bargatze is making his first foray into film, and I think you will see that in this film. He was by no means a perfect actor, but I do think that he was a very good girl dad in this movie, and I think that comes from the fact that he has a daughter with his real-life wife. I think one thing that really surprised me was that Mandy Moore, who we know from A Walk to Remember, Tangled, and This Is Us, agreed to star opposite him in this film. I'm not sure how that went, how she discovered the script, how she got to know Nate, but I actually thought they made a believable couple, and I really enjoyed it. It's kind of interesting because the day that I saw this film, my brother Thaddeus called me when I told him that I was going to see The Breadwinner. He said, that's the one starring Mandy Moore. And I had no clue that she was in the film. So I looked it up and I was like, my goodness, you're correct. Mandy Moore is in this film. And so I really looked forward to seeing it for a new reason because of that. And I just felt like she gave a very good performance as mom. After that, I wanted to just say a brief word about the three girls playing the daughters. I thought they did a very good job of encapsulating different aspects of family life. The oldest daughter obviously is trying to stretch her wings and be independent and discover new aspects of life, and her dad is trying to guide her and help her to not get into unsafe situations, encouraging her to dress modestly and trying to balance a desire to keep her safe with a desire not to embarrass her on campus. Then you have the middle child who is struggling with identity, and she really wants to get things right with the spelling bee, and he says don't get too wrapped up in any one thing like a spelling bee to determine your worth. You are a valuable person. And then his daughter, who's the youngest, is just precocious and silly and gets into all kinds of little mischief along the way as a result of what goes on in this film. So I thought these three daughters were portrayed well. I thought it was neat that they gave him three daughters so that he's working with different ages of children and really dealing with each of their struggles that they are facing on a day-to-day basis. And again, I think there's something to be said for the fact that as he takes on this task, he understands the true gravity and the true immenseness of the task that his wife undertakes. And I think that that's something that we really need to understand in this culture, because a lot of times people say, well, if you're just a mom, that just shows that you're not capable of more or that you're too lazy to do more. But if you really break down everything that a mom does, you realize that it's a full-time job plus, and that is no joke. Well, before we dig deeper into this review, I want to share with you the trailer for The Breadwinner, starring Nate Bargatze and Mandy Moore.
Moms have a million things going on. That's why I invented the Star Minder.
I really think you might have something. I'm going to give you an offer.
Running a company is a 24/7 job. What about your husband? Could he take care of the kids?
Nate?
Wait a second, is he here?
What?
Yes.
Yeah, bring him out.
We are moving. We're moving.
Yeah.
Here he comes.
What, are you kidding? Are you eating a donut?
No garbage can
You
up there.
can finish it.
No, wrong.
I'm out of here.
I'm out. I'm out.
Your wife is having the moment of her life and you're stuffing your face? You're a bozo.
I thought, are you allowed to talk if you're already out?
Lori thinks I might have something, but are you sure you can handle this?
I'm the top salesman at the dealership. I think I can handle a month alone with the girls. You act like I'm gonna blow the house up.
Bye. Dad, the front door is locked.
There's a window in the back. We'll crawl through that. This isn't the 1950s. Dad stay home all the time.
This is not gonna go well.
Dad, you're going the wrong way.
To your school.
To any of our schools. You don't know where our schools are? I'm gonna call Mom.
What? No, give me the phone.
Hi, what's up?
What's going on here?
Your wife had called you to replace your roof.
You're hired.
Really?
I'm going to just make a call.
I called all the top-rated places. I also called this guy because his bid was so low, I thought I could use it against the others. Who did you go with?
One of the real good ones.
Nate Wilcox. How you doing, Sugar?
Hanging in there. It's a lot of chores. I'll get 2 weeks of t-shirts and 2 weeks of underwear.
What happens after 2 weeks?
We throw all this out and start over.
Hi. I wanted to check and see how you were doing.
Yeah, great.
Sir,
Sorry.
there's a spelling bee.
Really great. The most great. She makes it look so easy, but it's so hard.
This has the potential to change all of our lives.
Trust me, I'm not gonna let your dream die.
Okay, but that's mostly on the horse.
Okay, are we ready?
Oh, no.
It's just a little wax.
Wait, are you filming?
So that's the trailer for The Breadwinner. And as I start out to discuss the premise, the thing that I think I most liked about this premise was that it wasn't a situation where either of the spouses were dissatisfied with the work they were doing. He was clearly very fulfilled being a Toyota salesman, and his wife was clearly very fulfilled being a stay-at-home wife and mother. And they both respected each other and really appreciated the roles that each person played within the marriage. And the daughters were very happy, well-adjusted daughters as a result of parents who knew and embraced their roles. So that wasn't what this was about. Rather, what it was about was that his wife came up with a way for her daughters to organize their chores and other things that they had to do that she calls the Star Minder. And she decides to pursue having it mass produced so that she can sell it as a business. So she ends up going on Shark Tank and getting an offer from Lori Greiner. One cool thing about this movie is that the actual sharks appear in the movie. So Lori Greiner takes her deal on the condition that her husband, Nate, take a leave of absence so that he can care for the kids while she is working on launching this product. And it was kind of weird in the sense that they said in order to launch the product, she had to go to South Korea right off the bat to launch it and work on the overall design of the product and get it ready to go. And I thought that was kind of interesting that they didn't even talk about doing anything stateside. They're just like, we're going to go to Korea to do this, which would require her to be gone for 2 weeks. And he wants her to pursue this. He loves her and he wants her to pursue it if she thinks it's worth pursuing. And I love that about their characters. Again, they support one another. But then this idea that she's going to South Korea, because not only will she be gone for 2 weeks, but she'll also be in a different time zone, which makes it difficult for them to communicate. And so we see some of the typical tropiness of him not knowing where anything is in the kitchen, or not knowing how to properly use the appliances, which again is a bit overdone, because I think that most fathers have competence in that area. So it didn't need to be quite so over the top, but it was a comedy. And so I really think that that is why they did it the way they did it, because they wanted people to be able to laugh. And, you know, kind of like in the vein of Cheaper by the Dozen, you know, I grew up with 11 children in our family, myself included, and it never got as insane as the hijinks in Cheaper by the Dozen, but it wouldn't be funny if the hijinks weren't insane. So I think there's a lot of similarities between that and this particular movie. And so we start out, he's trying to make toast, and he can't get the toaster working, and then his wife points out that the toaster isn't plugged in, and he kind of jokes, "Hey, I fixed the toaster," because after she plugged it in, it worked. So the first 2 weeks is she's gone in Korea, and he's trying to keep up with the laundry and do the cleaning, and he's getting exhausted. He's realizing that his wife is working really hard. And then here's where something a little unrealistic came in, as if going to South Korea to launch a product with a U.S. investor wasn't crazy. One of the crazy things about this was she comes back and she's in town for less than 24 hours. And then she's like, I need to leave for another 2 weeks to go to San Francisco to continue the launch of my product. And so he thinks he's getting her back, and he thinks he's survived, and now he has to continue to do the things he's been doing to make sure that she's able to continue to do what she wants to do, which is to launch this product. And he's very proud of her, but he obviously shows a lack of discretion by not being willing to talk to her about his weaknesses and about his naivete about certain things having to do with the family. So the hilarity continues. There are just certain events that add to it. There's the fact that there's this really incompetent guy that comes to roof the family house. Apparently she had gone through a bunch of roofers to get quotes and had called this person that she knew was really incompetent just to add him to the pile for a joke and just to see what he would say. And then he's the one that actually shows up and acts like it's a foregone conclusion that he is going to roof this house, and Nate, not knowing what to do, gives him the ability to do that, except that he doesn't know what he's doing, and he basically wrecks the house in the process of trying to fix the roof. You have him struggling to, first of all, figure out where the girls' schools are, and then struggling to, as I said, do the laundry. He thinks that they'll do one towel apiece, but he feels like he's always washing towels, so he can't get to the other laundry. We see him taking shortcuts like putting cologne on dirty clothes so that he doesn't have to take the time to wash it. And there's just a lot of things that he's not prepared to do. And eventually what happens is there are a variety of things that happen to make the whole house kind of get into a shambles, which is interesting because he makes the offhanded comment in the beginning of the movie, you act like I'm going to blow the house up. And although the house didn't blow up, it came awful close to doing just that. But as the movie goes on, he realizes that he needs to be serious about these things One of his struggles is that he does not want to lose his place as the top salesman for his Toyota dealership. So after the first 2 weeks, he, unbeknownst to his wife, goes back to work, and he's trying to balance being there for his daughters with being at work and doing all the household chores because his wife is gone, and he's failing miserably. So toward the end of the movie, his wife is coming back from San Francisco and tells him that they're supposed to do a live stream from their home. He's like broadsided because their home is not in good shape. He doesn't want to tell her that. So he actually asks a friend if he can use their house, and he brings a lot of the interiors from his house to make Lori Greiner from Shark Tank believe that it's their house. And then in the end of the movie, he has to admit his incompetence to his wife, but ultimately he says, my main desire was to make sure that you were able to accomplish your dream. I did not want to let your dream die. So I thought that was very well done. So some of the things that I did not like about the movie, I didn't like how they assumed, as I said, that the father would be incompetent in taking care of his own children. It's kind of like when people talk about fathers babysitting. A father doesn't babysit their children, because a father is a father and the children are his just as much as they are his wife. So if he is taking care of his children, that's exactly what he's doing. He's taking care of his children. So that's the first thing. I thought there should have been a little bit more competence in him, and there could have been with still having a comedy vibe. The other thing that struck me as odd is this idea that their mom couldn't still be a mom while working on a business. Now, obviously, in the early going of a business, it takes more effort. So I think that's what they were going for. But kind of this idea of that she had to shelf motherhood in order to be a businesswoman is kind of intuitive to modern culture. Modern culture tells us that women can have it all. And so I kind of was surprised they didn't show her doing a little more mothering, even in the midst of starting this business. In a way, I kind of liked it, though, because she and he, I think, both realize the value of what the other person brings to the table. And so I think ultimately it goes to a good place, but some of the ways that it chooses to get there are not the best. And again, it's hard to complain too much when the whole idea is to play it for comedy. A couple other things I didn't like. I didn't like the indifference of his boss. I understand that bosses need employees to work, but I kind of thought it was weird that his boss said, I need you here at the expense of your daughter's spelling bee, even though you've already proven to be one of my top salespeople. Like, if he was struggling to meet the quota that his boss set for him, that would be one thing, but he had just won the award as the top salesman at that Toyota dealership for the upteenth time, and yet the boss was still complaining that he wasn't going to be there because he was going to leave to go back to his daughter's spelling bee. And then I didn't really like the antics of the coworker who was competing with him for best salesman. There's some stuff about that character that I just did not appreciate at all. So I will leave it at that. But the other thing that was weird about his boss was that he makes an offhanded comment about being a father of 5, but then he says, but I don't bring that with me to work. And again, in a sense, you do need to compartmentalize, because you need to focus on work when you're at work, and then family when you're with your family. But I just thought it was interesting that it was a throwaway, because it was kind of an insult to him. Like, you can't take care of your 3 daughters without bringing them up at work, but I can handle 5 children fine. And it kind of made me think, are you really handling them fine if you're able to just go to work and shut out the idea that you have them? So that's another thing that I didn't like. And then a third thing that I didn't really like was that Colin Jost, who is also a comedian, played another stay-at-home dad. And there was an overarching air of incompetence in that character, to the point that his wife praises her assistant for all the things that she does for her over and above her husband. So I didn't really like that either. But I think the overall picture that I get from this movie is a good one, and really encourage you to go and see this movie. It had a lot of potential, and I really hope that Nate Bargatze continues to make movies. I think it can be a blessing in an environment where there aren't too many straight up family friendly films. I think that it is a worthwhile film to see. And as I said, it just came out in the last couple of weeks as you're hearing this. So I would really encourage you to go and see The Breadwinner, starring Nate Bargatze and Mandy Moore. So as I wrap up, I just want to share with you the overarching lessons that I got from the film. The first lesson I feel that is pervasive is, as I said, this idea of family togetherness and believing in one another is very clearly displayed by both parents. They truly care for each other, and they truly care for their children. That's an amazing thing. The second thing that I would mention, though, is that part of being in a relationship, such as a marriage, is being honest with one another. And the idea that he kind of realizes that you don't have to be perfect to be a good dad, but you do need to put in the work, I think is a very important lesson. And just this idea that I don't think that his wife wanted him to be perfect either, but she would have appreciated him putting in the effort to be a good dad and to be honest with her if he was overwhelmed. And the thing is, I think that's something that we can all learn, is to be honest with one another and to realize that it's okay to rely on one another for help. This idea that we don't need anyone else is a poison in our society today. And so I really appreciate The Breadwinner for bringing out the truth that a good marriage works best when two people believe in and support one another. And I think that you will leave the theater feeling very good and hopeful. And I think we need more movies like that. So that is all I have time to share with you today here on the Speaking for Him podcast. Let me just end by saying I think that I am going to actually rate this film 4 out of 5 stars and encourage you to go and see it with your family this weekend. I want to encourage you to reach out with your feedback with the contact information that will run at the end of the show. You can share your comments, questions, or concerns. I would love to hear them all. I appreciate any and all feedback as long as it is constructive, and I really hope that if you have been blessed by this podcast, you will share it with your family and friends and let them know where and how to listen to the Speaking for Him podcast on a weekly basis. The Culture Watch podcast comes out each Monday. The Speaking for Him podcast comes out each Wednesday. And I would really encourage you to share the blessing of this podcast with 3 to 5 people who have never heard of Speaking for Him before today. With that being said, I hope you have a great week and that you keep serving the best of masters.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Your host has been Andrew Gomison, founder of Speaking for Him. For information on today's show and to leave us comments and voicemails, please visit Speaking4Him. That is speaking numeral 4 him.blogspot.com. You can find Andrew's ministry at speaking4him.com. That's speaking the number 4 HIM.com. And when you look for us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or all other major podcast platforms, let us know what you think of the podcast by leaving a rating and a review. Intro music for this podcast is provided by Audio Kraken. Transition music is provided by Superstate. Both of these tracks are available free of charge from pond5.com, pond numeral 5.com.